welcome back to the Cantina. It's just Ben and I for right now. Grant is stuck in the occlusion zone. He's currently trying to steal a Nile ship and break his way free, so we shall see.
Yeah, I like his odds this time. I think he's got a path engine. He hot-wired one, so we might see him flying in.
Yes. The very porous storm wall is what I'm discovering from all the works of the High Republic.
Wait, you got through too?
Right? Yeah, everyone seems to be getting through who needs to get through. It's a lot of plot armor.
I'm loving the Republic right now, though. I just wanted to say, this is where we've been. I feel like every other week we've been doing new High Republic stories. We're in phase 3. We're touching on all the characters and all the different locations. It just really feels like it's coming to a head.
It does. And the synergy seems to be connecting with me for the first time in a while. Not that I really enjoyed phases 1 and 2, but it felt like it bounced around quite a bit. And for some reason now that we're fully in Nameless territory and we're exploring the Nameless, I'm kind of loving it, and everything seems to connect. Today we're going to talk about the Ty Uric miniseries from Dark Horse in a little bit, and I feel like that there's some stuff that connects to the Tears of the Nameless that we just talked about. I really want to that we just read and I want to talk a lot about some of the experiments that's happening in there. It's huge. Before that, just yesterday 100 completed.
Congratulations. Yet another Outlaws update. How did you know? Just a quick one,
but I needed to. How did I know? To be fair, I don't know 100%, but I did go online and do checklists. So I have every single blaster update, anything that can be up, any of the sheens I got. The other thing now is that I just discovered it, so I don't know if it's a new update, but if you go into the map and you hit, if you're playing PS5, or PlayStation 5, I think if you hit L2, it'll show you a checklist of all the treasures in a planet, and it doesn't necessarily give you the location, but at least shows if you've collected them or not. So I spent a long time doing that, looked for a lot of intel. I also went through a checklist of all of the completed missions and side missions, all the missions that were available, made sure I had them all. The other thing is that you will auto-complete side missions if you collect the treasure, so you may never get the thing, but if you go into your completed, it'll show as completed, even if you never actually got the intel.
Good.
I will say there are 3 bugs currently that are driving me nuts. 2 is that they're saying I didn't collect treasures that I did. And I just had to double check numerous times. And when I had watch walkthrough videos and walk through to make sure I had all 4 treasures. I'm yep, these are all open. I got them. Whatever. Hopefully that'll fix. I mean, it doesn't matter, but to me, my OCD brain is just I have to get those. And then there's one treasure. I actually 99.9% completed it, because there's one treasure in Kijimi that's stuck behind a closed door that you can only open once. And if you go in there and come out without the treasure, can't get back in there. And I'm hoping that is also just a quality of life issue they will address in an update. I've checked online. It's a known issue, right? It's not just me. So I'm but that is slightly driving me nuts. But I know it's there, and I know I can get it. So
was that Research Post 47?
No. So in Kijimi, it's one of the stashes, one of the people's stashes that sometimes you get this intel where you have a password to the door, and if you open if you open the door and you come back out and the door shuts, you can't get back in.
Right.
You can't even access the thing. It's really wacky. Yeah. So, but I'm it's weird. I didn't know what to do with myself. Tomorrow I'm working from home, and I was doing a little bit on, a little bit off, and I'm I don't know. I've spent so much time 90 hours in this thing. I'm I don't know what I'm doing now. I'm just waiting until November to get the update, I guess.
I haven't played it since I rolled credits on it, because I was pushing off so many other things to do that.
Yeah, you're also a normal human.
That's not true. Let's face it. I'd love to be normal, but I'm weird. But I really, with no excuse, I should have time for all this stuff, but work and life is just taking over, as it does, as it's wont to do.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I'm looking forward. I think it, we'll see when the next DLC drops, but December, January would be a great time to do some gaming.
I think I think it might be hitting. I think it might be coming out in November. I can't remember. They're doing a huge quality of life update. I think that might be towards the end of this month. So I'll probably just, when that happens, probably just sign back in just to see if those things are cleared. And then I think November is the first DLC. So I will similarly December. There's 2 weeks where I'm not in, I'm not working, but my daughter's still in daycare and Carly's still working. So I will probably plow through that in a matter of like 5 days.
I can't imagine they're going to be long DLCs. They're probably just going to be like missions.
No,
I
don't think so.
Yeah. But whatever. I'm going to eat it up.
Yeah.
Well, congrats, man. That's big. I respect that a lot, and I'm missing it.
Thanks. It weirdly became fun.
Yeah.
Like I started Tashara. I love It's an Easy Planet, and then I went to Tatooine. Tatooine I find a little like annoying at times to like speed her around when you have to speed around a giant mountain. And then I left Akiva for last because I cannot stand.
Yeah, it's tough to move around.
It's so tough to get from like point A to point B. Luckily, there's a lot of fast travel, and I'm excellent with all the HUDs. But I was just like bouncing around like crazy. I was just like, I just want to be done.
Yeah,
I just want to be done.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many times where I'm like, all right, I'll just speed her up this. Oh no, it's a waterfall.
Yep.
Then you're done.
Right.
Rad. Yeah. Looking forward to milk that game for some more enjoyment. Though, I mean, there's one. Yeah. It's going to be hard because I know I went through one place and I'm like, there's 2 more treasures in here somewhere, and I just. Oh no, I did. Yeah. I did find them actually.
There are most of the treasures are pretty like just kind of look around. There are a couple where I had to like jump. I had to get like hit by a fan blowing and get blown into a specific area to get. So there's like a couple that are like there's a couple of Imperial outposts I spent 4 hours probably in a day, just like just in my brain, like almost like doing a targeted map of like, all right, I've completely cleared this room. I'm going to go over to this room. Like I went through like a ninja, just killed everyone, just took out everyone so I could just walk around freely and just spent like 4 hours in an abandoned
that sounds
Imperial
like
base.
A dream.
Well, not even abandoned. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah, but I guess, that's it. We don't have to spend time, but I need to brag for at least a minute. Yeah, in terms of news, not a ton going on this week. One little tidbit of like possible rumor mill is that they're starting to announce who's going to be at Celebration 2025, and that's in Japan this year, and that's probably pretty close to the Andor release window. Andor season 2 will be sometime probably, I'm guessing it's summer of 2025. And the newest announcement, which is interesting, everyone, is Mads Mikkelsen. Galen Erso himself confirmed that he's going to be there and going to be like doing stuff. And he could go to conventions, but Mads Mikkelsen's not the type of person who needs to go. Like, he's not making, like, he doesn't need to be signing, right? Like, though I would say Ewan McGregor doesn't need to be signing things either. He goes to conventions all the time.
Yeah. But I think it's just
probably
nice for the
pretty
actors.
good.
Like, when do you just stand in front of your fans and get adoration for anything you do?
Right, get worshipped.
It's like, I mean, you go to the award shows, those are your peers, and they can, it's a little LA gross or like. But but like to actually just be there and like with your biggest fans just like loving you, it's a great vehicle. So maybe he wants some of that. Who knows? Yeah,
who knows? The big speculation obviously surrounding it is that Galen Erso will appear in season 2, which I don't think is like a wild stretch, right? I mean, we know that Krennic's in it, right? We've got confirmation that
Orson
Krennic's going to show up.
Yeah, and those guys were BFFs circa the Catalyst novel, so. Well before Rogue One came out, but we know Tony Gilroy is writing both of these seasons, but he also was brought in to punch up Rogue One, so he has some ownership over that movie. So it makes sense that, and he's already said this is going to shake hands directly with Rogue One. So I mean, it's actually going to be a really fun ride. Like, you're going to be able to watch Andor Season 1, Andor Season 2, Rogue One, and A New Hope contiguously. There will be no time break. Well,
no
actually,
gaps.
I guess Season 2 has got year-long gaps in between it, but like...
that's okay. Like, it still feels like you're there's going to be like through lines that's going to make you, like, I am psyched to do that. That's a good day and a half. I'm trying to figure out what the time... How many episodes was Andor Season 1? Was it 8? Oh, that's right. I forgot they gave Andor.
Both seasons are 12.
That's awesome. I'm so happy there's going to be 12. There's going to be 24 episodes. I forgot that season. That's a good example because I'm usually a big arguer for less is more with season runs. But boy, did Andor not waste a second. 12 episodes, all of them. I don't remember a single one where I was just like, boring. You could cut.
No, the quote unquote
and
boring ones where there's no action was the best stuff because the dialogue is so gripping. Yeah.
Oh, the greatest. The dialogue was so good. Yeah, it's so. No, that's going to be amazing. Yeah, so I guess that's like a couple day marathon because you got 24 hours and 2 movies, or Well, those are probably like 40 minutes. You bet you can fit it in 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like we did.
In
Maybe
the
they
theater.
should do that in the
sounds
theater.
Like a really healthy experience to have again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it won't feel like I'm going insane at
You're
all.
like going crazy and dying of like hypertension at the same time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess my other thing is that kind of like, so like now if we are, it's not confirmed, but if we're like fairly certain we're going to get Krennic and Galen Erso in the same room, like do we get like young Jyn?
Well,
in like, and not give her like a big role, but you got to figure they at least like go to the Erso's apartment, right?
I don't know. I think it would be kind of nice if we don't see her until the film. But maybe they talk about her.
Yeah, I would be okay with that because part of what I'm thinking about is Rogue One is going to be a tough watch after spending 24 hours with Cassian Andor and to watch him die. I mean, he has an amazing sacrifice. Like it's good. I mean, it's going to be so much more meaningful, but like to do that. And then I'm kind of thinking of like all you see of Jyn is like a kid. And then like the next time you see her, she's like on a hour-and-a-half path to death is might be a bit rough for. Yeah, so I like this idea of like we know she's there, maybe she's spoken of or mentioned or alluded to, but not given screen time.
Yeah, she spent some time in various prisons too, but no one knows who she is, so it doesn't really make sense for her to show up. It'd be nice to just have her moment there. Fun to think about though. Like, man, Rogue One is just I wouldn't call it my favorite movie, but there's never a time where I'd be like, I don't really feel like watching that movie right now. Like that time doesn't exist.
It always ranks for me, I think, on the bottom third of Star Wars movies, but every time I watch it, I just love it. Like it's a weird thing. Like I'm almost never similar. I'm never in the mood to watch Rogue One, but if you were to put it on, I'd be absolutely happy and completely engrossed and love it. And I don't know why. Like I do consider it a really great film, and I really really like it. I don't know. Like it's so funny. Like certain movies I just find like a vibe. Like I find Solo more of a vibe movie for me than the Rogue One. But it's an amazing film. I
guess I just love it because it feels so foreign at the beginning and then so familiar by the end. It's like a really weird vibe to start off, and it puts you in kind of a funny place because there's no crawl. Even though you get all the like it's a spaceship coming into atmosphere and flying over an alien terrain, and there's droids and the black sand, and like it's just, I just think it's beautiful, and it starts in such an interesting way, and then just like builds and builds and builds, which is cool.
I think that's a good point. I feel like episode 7 I will always remember the feeling when I first saw it in the theater where I was just like, is this good? I think it's good. I'm afraid it's not good. I think it's bad. Maybe it's good. I don't know. Like I just was so in my brain, and like with the fast talking, Poe Dameron, which I love now, but like I think we did the who talks first, you talk first, I talk first gag
before we started recording.
Did that before recording. But I'm like, I remember being feeling like, oh man, there's a lot of like, it's 2016, there's a lot, or 2015, there's a lot of like 2015 going on here, you know what I mean? So like took me a while to like, and the shots were different and whatever, and then I settled in and I'm like, okay, this is good, I'm fine. And similarly, when I went to go see Rogue One, I knew there wasn't going to be a crawl, but like literally when it just starts and it does like a sting and then like goes to like, and I remember in the seat literally going, like I literally jumped, like it startled me. It's like a jump scare in this thing. And then they started showing names of planets in that movie, which is the thing they don't do in any other Star Wars movie. And I was just going, and I was just like, I was not feeling it, because I was just like, no, this is too different. This is way too different. And like since then, I'm like, no, this is perfect. I love that the saga films are the saga films and other films are other films. And if we were to put a crawl in front of everything, it would diminish the feeling of the crawls in front of theirs. And it's okay to have planet names, especially in that movie. I look back to it, you need it. There's so much planet hopping going on in that film. But like, I still feel like I get that, like, I can still feel that initial feeling from Rogue One. I feel like sometimes it sours me on it a little bit, right? Like it's like almost like baked in, and then I'm like, no, that doesn't bother me. It did. It really doesn't.
Now that we've had enough sort of extra Skywalker like content, and I mean like outside of the Skywalker saga content, it's just like another contribution to that. But I did have initially. I was like, names of planets. That's new, just dorking out. But I mean, if I had my druthers, I would have them make them name every planet. Imagine if they did that in Rise of Skywalker, and they're like, "This is Mustafar."
I was gonna say, hey, if we knew there were Mustafar, that might have made it feel a little different about that whole thing. Like that's amazing. That's awesome. No, we're never, because again, they didn't know that when they were shooting
just
it.
Like.
That was a post thing they made up.
Yeah, they're like, should we tell them? It'll make it better if they know it. Like, I don't know what that whole deal was. That was odd. Oh man.
Yeah. And then I guess the other reason we're not getting much news is New York Comic Con just started. So I think in the next couple of days we're going to get some. They mostly at New York Comic Con is like true Comic Con. They focus mostly on comics and sub publishing. Following Instagram, getting a lot of the comic and written authors are there. So there's going to be some announcements. I'm sure they're already announcing some stuff for the Marvel Comics publishing. So I'm guessing Star Wars will have their moment. But like, I'll be interested to see, because right now, like Battle of Jakku is really the only ongoing series right now, outside of the High Republic stuff. Which, by the way, I don't know, Ben, if you've read the first 2 issues.
I have not.
Good. It is so good. I'm really loving it, and we'll cover. There's 3-4 issue miniseries. They're coming out like every other week, so we'll cover the first 4 probably in a matter of a month when they're all done. And then also Ewoks is happening. The first Ewok issue came, and also really good.
No way.
Shockingly good. Like it actually it touches on like the Ewok movies. It touches on Return of the Jedi. It touches on what's going on in the current Battle of Jakku or Insurgency Rising. So like it actually touches on everything in a beautiful way, and it's just to get a ton of Wicket and Chief Chirpa.
Okay.
It's amazing.
I can't think of anything I'm like desiring less than Ewoks material. Not because I dislike Ewoks or anything, but I'm just like, there's been so many stories, and all the like from a certain point of view. There's like a million Ewok stories for Return of the Jedi, and there's all these little one-offs here and there. They always throw them in the comics. That when they do special comics, they're like, people cannot like avoid writing about like Ewoks.
But in this feels more like a Star Wars comic than like a one-off. Like I was actually I felt very similar. I'm like, here I go. I'll read Ewoks, and it really does feel like here's the thing. Remember we kind of our complaint. Or minor critique of the Kalnaka was like, more Kalnaka in our Kalnaka, please. For an Ewok comic, there's a lot of Ewoks, but there's a lot of the Empire. There's a lot of the Empire and a lot of the Rebels in it. So it's not just like only Ewoks doing Ewoks thing. It's them being tied into a larger Imperial issue.
That's cool.
Which is interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That makes me think of Battlefront 2. They didn't have to do it, but they made like a mini like mode that's just, you're either like, it's like essentially a battle royale, but like it reverses, and it's just Ewoks versus Ewoks killing stormtroopers at night. And I think it's like, if you're a stormtrooper and you die, you become an Ewok, and it's like the game ends when all the stormtroopers are dead or something. And the winner is, the last man standing.
You know me Battlefront too, but I remember when that was going on. I remember dipping in on that and really enjoying it. And it reminded me of like the old Alien versus Predator video games, which were first person. You could be an alien or a predator, and they had different mechanics and different things, different tactics.
Yeah, you could have like night vision and stuff.
Yeah,
and you can like jump off catwalks with a spear and kill people from above.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good times.
Super cool.
Super cool, man.
Yeah. Well, so we'll see what they're going to announce. I'm sure more books, and probably more High Republic stuff. But I'm wondering if this is where they actually announce what the next official ongoing series is, because there's no official ongoing series. Because even the Battle of Jakku stuff is technically miniseries, right? Like we have we're at the weird moment in Star Wars comic or Marvel Star Wars comic publishing for the first time in 10 years of publishing comics where there's no official ongoing series currently.
So, and I mean, even the High Republic stuff, which there's so many series between adventures and the main run, and then there's all these little mini offshoots of adventures on that other publishing label. What is it, Dark Horse?
Yeah, Dark Horse. Yeah.
that's all going to end presumably next summer when the whole series ends.
Yeah. They've announced, I think another 12-issue run for, or maybe 10. But yeah.
Like that's it. So like that's going to be ending in the next 10 months. So, they're going to be putting out something. But yeah, it'll be interesting what they decide on there. And I guess that, this con is, you told me, is mostly about like publications and actual comics. So
yeah.
But other things, maybe some Skeleton Crew stuff. Or I would be surprised. Aren't we overdue for a like animation announcement?
Nothing, right? Nothing animation. That's a good point. Yeah, I was kind of surprised we got so far after Bad Batch without anything, because I feel like they've almost always had something immediately after the end of the previous one.
Yeah.
So
which is kind of sad. I miss it already. They did like a 10-year anniversary of Rebels.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is fantastic, and it's always remember those fondly. And I've been seeing so much love for Bad Batch online. People are like, that's my favorite Star Wars. Like, that's my Star Wars is Bad Batch, and I love to see it.
Yeah, it's so solid. I cannot believe how much. It's the thing I was like so least interested in, and to think back on it fondly of just like the characters they introduced, and still need to know what happened to Omega.
Yeah, Omega. I mean, maybe we see her in Andor. Imagine that.
Right. Yeah.
Because she's there. Then. So
totally.
That would be really fun.
That would be.
Maybe these are some of the comics. Like, I don't know. I don't know where their head's at, or do they hate money, or do they feel like they want to give people a break from Star Wars a little bit?
Maybe. It may be part of it. I feel like some of it too is, Filoni he now has the keys to the entire kingdom, it sounds like, or is at least has his fingers in everything. And
creatively, like, as far as programmed, creating program, like, I don't know.
No, but my guess is that he kind of holds his still, like, the dominion he controls is animation. I really feel like he has total control over animation over there, which is where he started and makes sense, and where the Mandalorian has really come from, even though it didn't feel like it. It is just an offshoot where Ahsoka came out of. And so I'm wondering if he's just a little focused on. I mean, he's doing Ahsoka, he's doing his first movie, right? Like, he's got a lot going on that I wonder if he's the type of person who doesn't want to greenlit a show unless he can really break it, like spend the time to break it apart. Because I know he wasn't the showrunner in Bad Batch, but it was a Filoni joint when you watch that thing. It had,
he has, like, he's delegated a fully competent, I'm trying to say, like, independent crew that makes, I mean, the last few animated series they've done, I think he had his hands a little bit in Tales of the Empire.
Yep.
But it's mostly like the other, he's got his, show writer companion that we should know her name at this point. And
I know I've been reaching for it. Grant's not here, but who was, for all intents and purposes, like the main force behind Bad Batch, and I think like she was able to do such great things with that, where it was able to take the Filoni house style and tell a really focused story and a really touching story. Yeah.
I'm also kind of hoping they give the finale of High Republic its due and its focus, and like really kind of part the seas a little bit for that to happen, because it's going to be really exciting. And there's been a lot of buildup, at least for me. If for the people that have been paying attention to it, it's a big deal. It's interesting how, like, inside baseball, they're really catering to the hardcores like us and all of you listening right now. It's you've got to pay attention to kind of all this stuff. I guess not, but like, you got to pick a series at least and stick with it. And there's a lot of interesting stuff out there for hardcore Star Wars fans, and top of the list is High Republic.
Yeah, no, it is. There's so much. I mean, I talk about Carly, who's a Star Wars fan and does all the live action and stuff and loves it. But like, apart from the Acolyte, she doesn't know anything about the High Republic other than a couple things I've mentioned, right? And like, it's amazing. There's this whole other world over here that average Star Wars fans know nothing about, right? Yeah. And it's and part of me is like, I kind of love there's this nook over here just for us, right? And that everyone's welcome. Please come. We want you all, but like, it's nice to know that we all have our own little thing that we can nerd out on to a deep level.
The super dorks have their own like play place, and I mean, that's kind of what the expanded universe was, pre Disney. It was just sort of like a secret handshake if you knew, the same books and all that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I saw some like numbers, which I can't verify, but like the number of published books and comics in the new EU is close to surpassing the number of books and comics from old EU. That's the rate at which they're doing stuff. Like it is completely eclipsed. Like, so it's wild to me to think to that. And I don't know if those numbers bear out.
Years, really.
Yeah. But I don't know if those numbers bear out. I feel like they're counting like the kids books, like the little kids books as well. Yeah. But it's still like comics wise, I think we're actually there. I think we're pretty close to that. And novels we're getting real close. Like it is the amount they push out, and the quality at which they're pushing it out is pretty amazing. So yeah.
Well, cool, man.
You want to talk Telluric?
I do want to talk about Telluric. So Telluric is the monster hunter, right? So she's a rogue Jedi with a sordid past. But like for the most part, she's just a video game player that desperately needs her own video game.
Right?
She's like a Jedi with no rules, on her own in the galaxy. Yep. Killing monsters for money, and it's a game I definitely want to play. But I mean, she's super fun.
Yeah, and basically she's a Ronin, right? Like she's a Ronin. She's a samurai without a master, right? Like
she's not as virtuous as Ronin. I mean, I guess Ronin kind of do whatever they do. But it's like she usually just kills monsters for money, but she doesn't usually have personal interactions, save villages, save people, I guess.
I feel like
inadvertently she does.
she's the Han Solo of Jedi.
Okay.
Which means like she tries to convince herself that she's only in it for the money and doesn't care. And just somehow keeps getting embroiled in these situations where she has to like save village and children and do the right thing and good thing. And like I still see her as a light sider in a lot of ways. Like I don't think she's going to leave someone helpless, right? Completely.
Right. She's not cold-hearted bounty hunter.
Yeah, she's not cold-hearted, but she is not. No, she's not like a seeking out, ways to help. Right? She is just coming across them while making a buck killing monsters. And hey, you know what? Like, I love the Heroes for Hire series on Marvel. Like, some people got to make a living, and if part of that is charging to be a superhero, charging to be a Jedi, what have you.
Yeah, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that's every Ronin story ever. Like, usually they're a masseuse or something innocuous, and then they have to save the village. She just happens to be a monster hunter, and then gets tied into helping people out. But super fun character. I feel like we only get about 4 issues a phase for her, but I guess we're getting more.
They said the variant Telluric will return. I have a feeling
when,
phase
or where or how.
No, but phase 3 is really starting to feel like phase 3A and 3B, like they would do with like TV shows. Like there's really 4 phases of this thing, and phase 3 is just gigantic. Like because we're getting double the number of comics. So I'm guessing we'll get another Telluric series probably in the second half of phase 3 is my guess, or they might start pulling her into the books or pull her into somewhere else. Like I feel like that's also the thing that we're gonna have to think about is like all these character stories. I guess they don't have to, but I guess we can expect most of these character stories to kind of wrap up at the end of this, and part of that is tying them into the larger issue.
Thing. And that's why I loved this series so much, was that it did this very much tied into her whole, like where she is in the canon, where she is in retrospect, in respect to everyone else in the High Republic. We start revisiting her past, we dig deeper into her past, and ultimately she's brought back pretty darn close to the fold. So they could go in a lot of interesting directions at the end of this. But yeah, this is like a larger story. It's not just these, plucky monster hunting things. It's really like we're going inside the mind of Telluric and into her past and all that. And that's fun. It's important. It's a good story that ties in synergistically with everything that we've been reading.
Yeah, absolutely. And I realize we haven't mentioned, written by Kevin Scott, who is like one of the masterminds of the whole High Republic. They're all masterminds, but like one of the main individuals. And Yeah, illustrated by Rachel Stott and Ridgie, or Nicola Ridgie is the is the color artist.
So they've just done this.
Just wanted to give credit. Yeah, those two names they don't jump out at me. But there's a lot of comics. I haven't have a chance to look up, but I wouldn't be surprised if they won. I mean, the artwork didn't look significantly different from anything else, right? So like sometimes you get like a new artist where like really stands out, like in some of the like the Crash and Burn miniseries that we talked about, like that artist was very different than what we've seen before. But this seems very, of the house style.
I thought it was like a VC person was what I was going to guess, but I did stop several times and I was like, whoa. Like,
it's beautiful. It's
beautiful art.
Yeah. No, it's the other thing about this is like it's 4 issues. I read them as they came out. Just a reminder, the first issue of this came out in April. So this is long delayed. And in fact, was like issue 3 said issue 4 is going to come out in July. I think it says at the very end. I don't think it's because this wasn't done. I think they might have waited to hold this until after Tears of the Nameless came out. Yeah. Because there's a lot of tie-in, and I think it would have kind of like it doesn't really spoil anything in Tears of the Nameless, but I think it's more meaningful after having read Tears of the Nameless to read the end of this. And so I'm wondering if there's
vice versa. I mean, Tears came out in September or beginning of October.
I think beginning of October.
So this must have come out before then, right? Or did it just come out?
No, this came out like last week.
Oh
this came out. Yeah. There's a big gap between issue 3 and 4, which, by the way, is super common in comic publishing, mostly because like when you have this many people working on something, and just to call out the way it works, the amount of work artists have to do, the people who have to like draw pages, and what they get paid is kind of ridiculous. There's some couple interesting documentaries of like some of these artists are living in like 1-bedroom apartments and are just sitting there 12 hours a day just trying to pump out pages of comics to get paid.
Wow.
Okay. But so it's common for you to get these things, and this is my whole big spiel against these giant comic events where you cross over everything, because inevitably what happens is something gets delayed and then another thing comes out and it ruins what's going on here. Like you can't do that synergy like you can do with a movie. High Republic, to its credit, has mostly avoided that issue.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is an issue, because having read it, if we read these 4 issues, if they did come out in July, I think it would have been fine. And if they all came out now, I think it would have been fine. It didn't really spoil anything, but I appreciate it ending so close to Tears of the Nameless because of the synergy between it a little bit.
Absolutely. So just briefly, if you haven't read it and want to know what goes on, hunting monsters, gets a job. They're hoodwinked. They said it was a monster hunting job, but it's hunting the Nihil, and they stole a bunch of kids that were Force sensitive. So she has to go after the kids, bonds with one in particular. Her parents die. There's a force-wielding Nihil leading a Nameless. There's a battle, and things go on, right? And in parallel to this, we have Drew.
Yeah, that's the A story.
That's the A story. Yeah, the B story is Drewer. This is her sort of rabbit-eared friend.
Squire.
Yeah. He's been named Squire. That's sort of is begging, is I think also Force sensitive with like some kind of bonkers Force abilities, like invisibility or something.
Invisibility, yeah.
And he desperately just wants a mentor in Ty Yorick, and who wouldn't, right? So he sets out to prove himself, and and goes out
in a pretty big way,
in a huge way. Yeah, I had forgotten about this in phase 1. The Chancellor's son sort of absconds off with his boyfriend to some like random planet and gets stuck behind the occlusion zone, and it's been a yearly thing. Every time you flash to the Chancellor, she's wringing her hands about her son. And it's been going on for quite a while now, considering phase 2 came out in between it. But there he is. It's Kitso, I think. No.
Yeah, Kitso. Yeah, Kitso. So, or
It's yeah. Oh my gosh, worst podcast ever.
No, it's fine. What I'm frustrated about is I literally had it open in Wikipedia and then I was clicking over something else and lost it. And because Wikipedia is so fast, I'm totally right back there immediately.
Irregardless, So the Younger is on a planet and just sort of becoming aware of this, and he's found out. Yeah. And the Nihil are coming after him, and also Druir.
Druir.
He goes by Drew for short. Not a great Star Wars name, but okay.
Nope. And it's Kitrep. So.
Oh, Kitrep. So.
Yeah, Kitrep. And I'm not even going to attempt Drew's last name. It's
a funny one. Yeah, it's like 7 syllables.
Kribahillan, something like that.
Love it.
I feel like I left something out there, but yeah.
There was a 9 in there somewhere.
It starts out QW, so I don't even know what to do with that. But so it's. Yeah, so they're there. I also love the fact that they don't know about the occlusion zone, and they clearly have been living behind it for quite a while because they're living this like really kind of like this planet that doesn't get a lot of activity, it seems like. And I love the fact that there are a lot of people probably in the occlusion zone, living their lives, doing their things on planets, going like, wait, what happened? Like just coming aware of it through people visiting and spreading the news.
Yeah, I sort of read it as they were on a year-long camping trip. Like we're just out in the countryside, in this lush, like very forgiving biome, and then it's like they go to town one day, and then they get found out, and they find out about the occlusion zone, and they're like, should we care about this? We should care about this. So, so that's obviously these two plot lines converge.
Yep.
And we learn about Sababa, yeah. Ty-Yorik's master, Sababa, which is a great name. It's such a good Star Wars name. I feel like I've heard it before.
Yeah, right. Like it is like kind of the perfect Star Wars name. He's a Zumel. He's a Zumel, which is the he's the alien in Solo who has who's in
he's playing cards
in
one
the
of his
Sabacc
eyes.
Scene. He has 6 eyes, and he's like, and keep your eyes on your own cards. Keep your eye, one eye moves. All practical effects, by the way. One of my favorite practical effects. But so
that was a good bit.
Such a great alien design. Super cool.
What I feel like that design was also in Chelms's Cantina.
Maybe I don't know.
Maybe not. Maybe it was just Solo. But it's a great
definitely
design.
Similar to
a Gran.
Yeah, a Gran. It's very similar. I'm gonna look up appearances.
It's a face with 3 giant eye stalks on each side of the face, just like framing it. It's and they're like kind of rock colored, and I think they only have 3 fingers.
Yep. Solo is first appearance, so that's first time they introduced this alien species. But it is very much similar to a Gran and very. I'm sorry, actually, Star Wars Force Arena was the first appearance of this thing, but that's not.
All right.
Whatever that is. I think a mobile game, if I remember correct.
And they're like, no, we need some new alien designs for this because of reasons, and I'm here for it. That's great.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. So it comes together. So Sababa. So we know a little bit about Ty-Yorik's past, and it has been 3 years since we read about it. I think 2 years.
Yeah, because she was in like the temple phase one. Yeah, I
Monsters of Temple Peak.
Temple Peaks. Yep, there you go. Well done. No appearance in phase 2, obviously, because phase 2 is a flashback. So you're right.
There is a series, but it's a flashback series.
Oh, that sounds familiar. Now
and it's about the Nameless, because I've actually been catching up on the Dark Horse phase 2 comics, because for some reason I didn't read a bunch of them. So
the Nameless Terror.
Yeah.
Maybe
the Nameless
Terror. Yeah, because I'm looking at that on like because he appears in those. He's mentioned in the Nameless Terror 1 and 2. So I'm guessing you're right. I'm guessing that's so Sababa that might be Sababa gets mentioned, but my guess is that's Ty-Yorik.
Yeah,
probably in the wraparound story.
It's a flash. It's an entire flashback series. So there's like a main story where she's flying around and they're like stuck in space, and so she's talking to her droid.
Yep.
ELO.
That's totally.
ELO?
Yep. Yeah, totally. That's what this is. That's the Nameless Terror, which I remember that now that you're saying that. The names mean nothing.
Yeah, but it's kind of pithy, and it's not a big deal. But they do. I mean, she's constantly haunted by her past. But anyways, my point is that she was a Jedi Padawan, and she goes into a cave and she gets kind of seduced by her best friend to go do this thing that they shouldn't be doing, and he dies, and she feels responsible for it. That's roughly what I remember from that.
Yeah, exactly, and leaves the Jedi Order because of that. Basically, becomes a saber for hire. And
this kind of shows the fallout with her master, which was not good. He did not take it well.
No. Yeah.
He also didn't quite leave the order, but he became a way seeker and went the wrong way.
Well, he became a way seeker, and then the way I read it was like basically abducted by the Nihil and experimented on by Baron Bulin. And so basically the Nihil have a Force user who is leading stuff. Like we see this, and this ties in directly. It's not the same character, but we know that it's not a standalone thing. This is what I find interesting, because in Tears of the Nameless, what was the name of I can't remember the name of the big bad in Tears of the Nameless.
It's Psychopath or Sicarus?
Sicarus, I think, something like that. We'll go with Sicarus, right? We don't get his backstory really, but we know he's a Force user, right?
Yeah.
And so it seems to be suggested, I'm guessing based on this, is not every Force user that they capture is tortured and taken for information. I think Baron Bulin's creating Nihil from some of the Force users through experimentation. So this is really interesting, because I thought it was like a standalone Force user, and now we know there's at least 2 of them that have been experimented on and changed. So it's going to be real interesting to see what happens later on in Phase 3 if we're not having a lot of Jedi fighting other Force users.
These chemically induced Darksiders. So we covered Tears of the Nameless. I
was gonna let it go, but
Tears of the Nameless, was it last week? Gosh,
I think so.
I think it was.
No. Yeah.
So that's right. Sicarus was in there. And we learned about Baron Vulin, and this is going on, and now we've seen this. And where poor Sababa was also operated on and turned into this dark side user. So we know that they use nameless blood injected in their system, and it sort of enhances the dark side, and it ruins their mind and makes you a different person. It's a wildly new concept for Star Wars. It's super fun.
Yeah.
But do you recall, and this is good because we've been reading Phase 3 kind of together and not waiting much time between things. In the High Republic main run, our man Skier was about to be operated on by Baron Vulin. And now we know what was going to happen.
Right. It was unclear. It was really unclear that what was going on in that scene. I remember talking about do we know what's happening there? And we're all no, we just know bad things are about to happen. But you're absolutely right that Skier was going to be turned into possibly one of these
Dark Jedi,
nameless Jedi, Dark Jedi things. Yeah. Which is what a cool, I just, once again, still adding, right? It's not you get to this point of a series and you feel like you start kind of wrapping it up, right? So I'm all right, so they have to take care of the Nameless. Okay, well, no, because now we have the Blight. Okay, well, we got to take care of the Nameless and the Blight. Well, no, now we have Darksiders who are infected with Nameless blood. I'm when are you going to stop adding? You have to start subtracting at some point. Yes, we got rid of the Drengier.
Yeah.
Right? We got rid of the Drengier, or have we? Because it also seems like those might pop up again. Who knows? I just love that they keep adding more threats.
I know, and then that's been the common theory. It's no one's ever safe. You're just oh my gosh, who are you going to kill off next? That I love.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, it's going to get interesting. Yeah.
But I mean, the Order, it's been fun for these runs here, but it's also in that High Republic main run on Marble, we know they captured Baron Vulin.
It's we know that's over.
Yeah, they're as evil as this guy. But it's they captured him, and then they started developing his character in really interesting ways.
It's really weird, because that's also feels like that might be a bit of weird publishing issues where I don't know. I don't know, but part of me feels like they decided to split because there's only 3 adult novels in the series in this same as phase 1.
In this phase, yeah.
But they decided to double the amount of mainline comics by splitting it into 2 parts. So I wonder if they made that decision because of the popularity of this stuff, and then they had to speed up the timeline a little bit. And it threw the timeline of the novels and the comics a little out of whack.
Yeah, the comics may be running ahead a little bit.
A little ahead, right? Because you got Bulin now captured. Because I remember reading it going like, oh, but we know he's captured. It was a weird moment when we started reading those books. I'm like, okay, but he's captured, and it's fine. I mean, it doesn't change anything. But like, we also just don't know how many of these. That, like, again, thought it was a one-off when we read Tears of the Nameless. Now we know it's not. So who's to say how many of these Dark Jedi he has created if they're not just...
Yeah.
Because they also seem to be leading the Nameless in charge, right? Like, they seem to be kind of their keepers. And we know we see the Nameless being used a lot, that it's not just these 2 groups of Nameless. So we don't know how many of these things are out there kind of leading the Nameless. Like, it'd be kind of amazing if you just get this giant...
Yeah. It reminds me of, like, kind of like the Inquisitorius. A weird demented Inquisitorius, but then of course you know they're bound to these creatures.
I love the fact that they're doing like mad scientist stuff in this. Like I like that's like we've never really, other than like Dr. Everzon, which with his like decraniated monsters.
That was like the wall. That was the limit. That was
it's like one of my favorite.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite things. We were like somewhere watching. Oh no, I think it was like, you know, like how they do like the Star Wars like marathons during the holidays.
Yeah,
like that's my favorite thing. Like, because I'll just have that running in the background while like we're cooking turkeys and doing other stuff. Where I'm like, this is my football. It's just Star Wars running in the background. I mean, football is my football, but like Star Wars trumps football.
Yeah.
And so like I'll just have it running in the background, which is great because we'll just wander in. And Carly and I would just like, we'll just sit down and watch like 20 minutes of whatever Star Wars is on while we're taking a break. And Solo is on, and you're like, there's the decraniated stuff.
Yes, in Solo.
Like I paused it, and I'm like, Carly, look at that. She's like, what is that? Like, just like, she was so disturbed. I'm like, let me tell you a story.
Yeah, that's a hobby.
Yeah. So, it's like body horror.
Yeah, it is kind of like the worst kind of body horror. And there's a little bit of body horror in stores here and there. They're always hacking off limbs and stuff, but this is the scariest thing in Star Wars, I'm pretty sure.
So I love that we have more mad scientists. Like, we need more mad scientists, especially it's October.
Right.
Like, that's what we need. We need Dr. Frankenstein's wandering around in Star Wars right now. I love it.
So right. That's what we And that was a side of Baron Voolan that we hadn't got before. It was like, you know, we knew he was like, you know, all right, he has his experiments, but we never really saw any of them. And so now we're like, now we know what he's up to, and it's like, woof.
Yeah, it seemed like he was just there to kind of figure out how to control the Nameless, which is probably like my whole like back theories, like backstory or headcanon is like that's how he sold himself to Marchion Rose. Like, yeah, I'm your scientist. I'll figure out what's going on in this. And meanwhile, when no one's looking, I'm just going to be injecting like Nameless blood into everything I can.
See what happens.
Just see what happens. We'll never know.
Let's find
it'll be
out.
Cool. Yeah.
Rad.
But the other thing I love about this series is that like it does this thing. It's such a straight. Having read this again this afternoon, I love a series that's very just straight ahead. It has the A plot and B plot. It's very clear what's happening. Doing a lot of character development throughout it, and then like the ending is just kind of wonderful of them like, yeah, we're going back to Coruscant. Like we mission accomplished. We're bringing everything back, and like to have that couple of moments of Tyuric interacting with Elzar Mann, and like have a bit of discussion to be like, I don't know, like basically agreeing that, you know, she didn't really say it. Oh, there's a moment where the squire, now
Drew,
apprentice, Drew, thank you, asks, you know,
am I a Padawan now?
Asks Elzar Mann, is this what Jedi wears? And Elzar Mann says, no, this is what heroes wear, right? Like something like that, or like I can't remember the exact phrase, which is such a wonderful like moment of just like of emotional intelligence, where he's just letting Tyuric know you're a hero and you're always welcome here. Like there's a moment, and I love what we're getting in the High Republic of just like, we saw it with Tears of the Nameless when what's his name leaves the Jedi Order, of just like Comac is like you can leave, but it doesn't mean like we shut the door in your face. The door's always open, right? And I love that, and it brings you back to Luke. Not to bring it back to this, but this idea of Luke of like, I love that the Jedi seem to have redemption written into their code, that people can come back. That it's not like if you touch the dark side, you are done. You know, you may not be like welcome back to be a Jedi Knight, but there is some redemption, and I love that.
And I love that for Ty, in that this one she gets the Luke Skywalker redemption moment herself, where instead of killing her master, she brings him back to the light. And I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of that, to see how he does like after that thing. But you know what? Like, think of all the information he has now about the Nameless. So much. Yeah. And it's like, again, like, I feel so bad for who's my guy, Reith Silas, who's just like felt the weight of his world and like killed himself trying to like capture a Nameless, and lost his master, like literally, and like just like went through all like the worst trials ever to try and just help this thing. He's dealt with a Darksider. He's like done so much stuff, has got no ground, and meanwhile everyone around him, right? Ram Jamram, teenager,
Ram Jamram just comes back like, I got three of them. No big deal. No big whoop.
So his character, like a teenager's like, I got three. Anyways, where's the nachos?
Is like Reith just going to be the ultimate Darksider in this whole thing? Is he going to become a Sith? Like, is he just going to fall from out of frustration and just be like, I've been trying and I give up? Like, just poor kid.
Guy. And
I think right now, we're going to see more of them. By the way, the Echoes of Fear miniseries is ongoing, which is another Dark Horse miniseries. But it's really cool. This also ties into Tears of the Nameless, which it's still ongoing, so we're not going to cover it yet. But it's Reith and I could never think of how to say his name. Abba. That poor.
I'm sorry, I can't help because I'm thinking about it, but I'm the master that I'm thinking of. Adazzo.
No, it's Adazzo.
Amadeo Adazzo, and Nero Lux, his master's in that as well.
Yes.
Yeah. I've been reading that.
So you know, like how in Tears of the Nameless, you have Reith and him kind of connect, right, and start solving the problem. So this comic series basically talks about they just go to the Jedi archives and read about the stones. So like this takes place after Tears of the Nameless. They know the stones are the key, and so they're reading about the history of the stones, which are it's super cool because it's similar to like the other one with Tyurek from Phase 2. It's just them reading a story, and then we're being told the story. But it's a lot of like, what happened to the Jedi Master that found one of these stones and went slightly mad while trying to use it? Like, it's really neat. Like, I love all this backfill stuff that they're doing, and just like all connecting. Like, I don't know. I feel like Tears of the Nameless unlocked
a lot.
Phase 3 for me in a way where I'm just like, now I'm like 100% on board. Like, everything I'm reading connects back to this. It's kind of wonderful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But at the end of this, we bring back Sababa, and he's back in Coruscant. They have a throwaway one-liner about how they got out of the occlusion zone, because I was like, wait, how did you? But I'm like, all right, you had a hill ship and you have a path engine.
I had the same thing. I'm like, wait, wow, but I guess because they do talk about nihil ships having path engines and yada yada yada. I mean, fine, I know, but it is a little like. It's such a great invention. When that happened in the Phase 1, I'm like, that's cool. Like, this entire area of space shut off, and then they're like, that's a great idea, but we actually need to have people going in and out of here to advance stories. So like, how do we do that?
And then, there was so much drama around Avar Kriss breaking through being the first, and it took a year to get through. But then it's just I can name at least 5 people that have passed through it with very little pomp and or circumstances at all.
Somewhat accidentally, it almost feels like
I did it too.
I just flew home. Yep. I know we were talking about it, but the Beware the Nameless and Tears of the Nameless thing, just I can't stop laughing at that ending of just like we lost so many people trying to get one Nihil one Nameless. And then the kids' novel, like, we brought 3 home.
And then here you have Tyurek bring back a person that used to control Nameless. Like, who will know more about Nameless than that person?
Right. So, the Jedi finally feel like they're kind of getting ahead of this whole thing, which means I'm guessing there's one more rug pull before we get there, right?
Return
because
to Drengier.
Something's got to happen, because they are there. Like, they have Bulin, they have Nameless, they have one of the Dark Jedi Nameless controllers, whatever. They have all of that now.
They know that they need the wands, the batons.
Yep, the stones. Yeah, and so it's like they know how to. They're on the verge of taking down the Nameless, and once the Nameless is taken down, that's it. Like that's the only thing. The
path engines would leave them into no space, but it's like then they're just kind of a scourge.
then it's an annoyance at that point, right? Like they just pop in and out, like, but they can't. So that's also why I'm just like, there's one more thing, and we know that Marchion Ro is like coming. It actually haven't happened yet, right? He's coming to Coruscant.
It has happened
to basically talk about.
He's been there. Yeah, I think he got there at the end of the last novel, and that's how he planted the blight in the middle of the temple that we read about last week.
Okay.
In Tears. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So confused about timeline.
Yeah,
stuff,
it does jump around a little bit, but you know what I think we did this phase is we kind of are covering everything in a more condensed amount of time.
Yes,
which helps, and we should probably try and do that more in the future, because now we can have a recall about all these. There's like how many storylines? 4, well, and 5 with Ty Yorick, right? There's like the main run. There's the High Republic Adventures, which is the main Dark Horse run.
Yeah, Ty Yorick.
And
then 3 levels of novels. So you actually have 6.
I know, but I'm just thinking about and then you have Is it 3 levels of novels? You're right. Yes, that's 6.
Because there is amongst even the junior novels, which like it adds flavor, and you don't miss a ton. Though they do reference what happens in those. There are reoccurring characters in that as well. I mean, you could very much shunt that off to its own thing, even though those don't read like little kiddie novels. Yeah. They're like middle grade, like middle school,
like novel that I really liked.
I just keep reading mostly for that reason. Like I like Rom. Like I like what they're doing with him, and Also, like people die in those things. Like I just am really impressed with what they're giving middle school kids to read when I was. When I was reading it's things about robots.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. Yeah. And there's a little bit of crossover, but not a ton. So when you think about it, I mean, that's a lot of characters, man.
So many characters. I mean, it helps that they're killing a ton of them.
No wonder they're killing them left and right.
Right? Like I feel like am I learning? Am I starting to get these names down, or are there just less names to get down now? I don't know.
All right. Right now, here we are. I would say we're probably right in the middle of what you called Phase 3A and Phase 3B. 3 favorite characters all time, High Republic to this date.
Oh, okay. That's tough. So I still love Keeve Trennis.
Keeve Trennis is in the main run comics.
Main run Marvel comics. Yeah, she steers Padawan, or was, and now I think is a full Jedi. I like her because I feel like she is from the beginning we got to see her Jedi trial, like with Skier. I love the fact that she has a Skier as her mentor. Like I just love that, like it's just she's learned everything from a Trandoshan that's positive. Like she's decisive and strong and whatever, but also very thoughtful. And like I love the fact that she's like basically a space pirate Jedi, because as we have her now, she's just like in the inclusion zone, flying around a spaceship, just solving stuff. So I like her quite a bit. I think Ty Yorick is way up there as well. If I had to name it, sorry to steal it. And I already mentioned him. I love my man Rom Jamaron. I love. No, wait. Now I want to.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good hot tub right there.
It's pretty good. But it's hard for me not to love Reath Salas because of all of the people. If I was going to be a Jedi,
that's who you are.
That's the Jedi I would be, because I'd be like, no, I'm just gonna go study stuff. I'm gonna read a ton of books, and I'm gonna like do science. And then fine, I'll get pulled out into the field and do something. I won't feel comfortable about it, but I'll do it. So like I gotta put him in there. I might swap out Ram for him, and then but close fourth. So those are my kind of off the top of my head. How about you? What are your top
Orla
3?
Jareni.
Forgot about Orla Jareni.
You forgot Buriaga Agaburi, by the way.
I know, right? No Wookiees. I just I like him. I like a Wookiee Jedi, but like I need him to do a little more.
Yeah, right.
A little more. We'll see what happens.
That's the thing.
I feel like they pull him out.
Yeah, that's why I kind of like Orla. Like I was so heartbroken when she died, but like she still remains relevant, and I think that's a great. Like I think she's so cool that she needs to be that person. Or that she needs to sort of be remembered, and I love that for her. For some reason, I really want to say Salandra Show right now. With the shield. We didn't get a ton of her, but we got some like
No, she was
yeah,
super
but
cool.
like classic
yeah.
White Knight, like super Jedi that just like really believed in the cause and had her thing. Yeah, you know, the shield I thought was kind of a gimmick, but whatever. I still love her. Yeah, I love how she trained her Padawan and how the trials that she provided for Rupert and Nanjani. Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
I will say for the shield, it feels like a gimmick, but it's also one of those things of like, how have we gotten through, I don't know, how many years of Star Wars storytelling where someone's just not like a Jedi's just not like, no, we use these weapons for defense, so maybe I'll just make a defensive
How about that?
tool,
yeah.
right? A defensive weapon. Like, I kind of love it where I was just like, oh, but because it's been so long, it feels so out of place. But I don't know. I don't mind the shield.
I think the fact that the shield has a legacy now, I think also adds to her character for me. And maybe these are probably just
same.
Just
I'm also feeling very much like recency bias, where I'm like I'm naming characters I've read recently because I'm like other ones, but I want you to finish your list because I want to do a couple honorable mentions after your.
I feel like token dude would be Elzar Man.
I love Elzar.
I don't know. Yeah. He's a complicated character, and he's not your like sort of. He's not a virtuous dude. He's made a lot of mistakes, and he's just trying to be the best he could. Like, you know, like really, just celebrated youngster, like golden boy that sort of fell on tough times and has dealt with his things, but is like now finding his way again.
Yeah, can I make so it's so funny, we talked a bit about this off air. It's about kind of like professionally what's happened to me this week. I'm not going to go into details, but not to get super political or whatever, but I'm just going to talk about my experience and how I kind of relate to Elzar Man a little bit of just like someone who has as a white male, I have quite a bit of privilege and it you know, certain things are easier for me than others. I think about certain classes I teach where I say the same content as some of my female professors, colleagues, and others who have a harder time of it, but because I am white and have a beard and look like whatever, they just let me say the stuff out loud that other people say. It's really weird when you think about it. So I kind of been aware of this. I'm a sociologist, so I see this stuff anyway. That I get that feeling though, because I'm aware of that. I always feel like I don't deserve my position, right? Because like I feel like it's easier for me than others, and so I constantly am trying to figure it out. So there's that imposter syndrome, which is a weird thing to say as a person who does not look like an imposter of where I am. But I feel like Elzar Man has a little bit of that going on as well, right? Of just like, again, being identified as a golden boy, being part of this trio of people. He's always kind of seen himself as the lesser of the trio. And the moment where he jumped up in me for character, because I like him, was when he just finally came clean about what happened on Starlight Beach. Like, that was a great Jedi move of just like, nope, I gotta own this. And like, and the fact that he was his own worst critic is something I can agree with, where everyone else is like, dude, like, yeah, probably if you didn't kill him, it would have been a lot better, but like, we get it.
Yeah.
Like,
you're still human.
It was a stressful situation.
Yeah, I know. And that forgiveness, it just made for a great moment. And just like something about the mental image of him, like at the beginning of his arc in the waves, just like fully submersed in the ocean, like a dark ocean, like I thought was just like really cool, like as a metaphor for the Force. And because he has like a dark brooding soul, but he's now in phase 3 sort of come to terms with it. But he's great. But I mean, you know, should we do Grant's? Porter Engle, Solandra Show also, and who do you think his third is? Skier.
I was going to say Skier. Skier seems like a good Grant choice. He'll have to correct us next week or add his own. But honorable mention, because phase 2, I just don't think about all that much, even though I really like it. I need to go back.
Yeah, I feel like I need to read just like phase 2.
Because like phase 1 just ended in such like a to be continued. Let's go back and tell the prequels. Where I'm just like, no, what are we doing? And it took me a while to like settle in. But the Chancellor's is it Greylark?
Oh yeah, Alex Greylark.
Yeah, I love that kind of character. I love that character because it's such a complex character. He just sucks. I mean, he's just as horrible things, but like, you know, there's a core of good in him. Like he's the Kylo Ren of the High Republic, because like you could see the internet shipping him, and like there's good in him. I know, like the amount of like Reylo people out there, like that was built for Reylos, like and I bought into him, and I love that. And then we also see, I don't think I mentioned this last week, when Beware the Nameless, the Greylarks are still in as senators. And they talk about their family history.
No kidding, I missed that.
And not a ton. It's not a ton. They just mentioned that, like, our great whatever used to be High Chancellor, and like we have a long line of really good people, except for one, right? And like, and like mulligan. It's kind of hinted, but like again, that's a character who turned himself in, like submitted to punishment, and like that. The thing that killed me with Phase 2, I still remember the feeling of, well, the second main novel ended, so we're going to find out what happens to Axel Greylark in the third novel. And I remember live on air, you're like, no, dude, there's only 2. And I'm like, what? I literally remember going like flabbergasted. I'm like, that's it? We're not going to get a follow-up? Like, this is the end of this character's story? He's dead. He's got to be dead in Phase 3. He's just a human. Like, I still remember that feeling of like, I wanted to know that character doesn't get a redemption arc. Like, he does the noble thing. And I assume
he goes to jail, gets broken out, and goes to jail again.
Yes, he does. all by his own volition, right? Like which I appreciate. So I like that character for, like, again, a character who doesn't do the I'm going to redeem myself last second and die, right? As opposed to like, I'm going to do the right thing and probably go to prison for 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to do a hard thing.
Yeah, I love that ending for him.
So I like that character, complex character. I want to know what happens to him. I really need a flashback story. Even just like, I really thought we might get a short story in that, like for Light in Life short story of like a little more about him, but nothing. Nothing. I'm gonna have to like email. I'm gonna have to figure out who wrote those books and email and be like, can you just write a 20-page short story that's just like something I need to know. Yeah,
that's a good point, man. Yeah, I think Phase 2 was so good, and it was really fast, and then B, it was really out of left field. It was just like, okay, like I just learned who all the previous characters were, and now you're making me learn all new characters again. And I guess Slandra's show is a Phase 2 character, so I got one in there. But yeah, it was a lot. But then, like, in retrospect, you're like, oh, now we're starting to see it connect to Phase 3 in interesting ways.
I thought about like, if I were ever to go back and reread, and if I was to do that, I might just read the novels. Like, I don't know if I would just consume everything. And I thought about maybe reading Phase 2 first.
Oh, interesting.
But then I realized, like, but Phase 2 connects so much more closely to Phase 3. It's that I didn't want to do that. I mean, it's my argument of like, you watch the movies. My argument for the movies is always release order. You watch them in release order. Even though, like, we watched when they did the marathon, you watch it. They watched it in episode, which I get. You're showing
my thing is order, like, if it's your first time, release order. But then thereafter, choose your own adventure.
It's fine because you can do it. You can absolutely whatever.
In fact, your second time you're going to want to see it in chronological order because it'll everything will have new meaning. So.
Yeah, but it's just so weird to watch those movies in chronological order, to be like, because then you meet Yoda in like the fourth movie and you're like, why is Yoda so weird? Or fifth movie, you're like, why is Yoda so weird? Like, suddenly, like, pretending like people don't know anything. But like, I'm like, when my daughter gets, I mean, it's weird because my daughter already knows everything about Star Wars because, like, just kids are always already ruined, and there's so many like cartoons and stuff. Like, I'm sure she already knows that Vader is Luke's father. I don't know if she knows that. I really don't want to spoil that because she loves Vader so much. Every time she comes and picks a toy, which is why all of my toys, by the way, anyone who's looking at the video, all my toys are just on their side because my daughter will come in every day and pick a different Star Wars toy to come downstairs with. And I'm like, I just can't set them up again every day. Lying down. Tired. Yeah. I mean, who knows where all the weapons are? Nothing matches. But I'm like, my kid wants to play with Star Wars toys. I am not stopping her. But she will automatically go for Vader every time. And I'm like, I want her. I think it's that weird thing of like, she saw I showed her Star Wars when she was a little too young, and I think Star Wars scared the blank out of her, or Vader scared. And now this is like, that's how kids that's why I love zombie movies. Yeah. Right? Like, kids compensate where she's just like, I love Darth Vader. I'm like, do you, or are you just trying to convince yourself?
Yeah. As far as villains go, I think he's very kid friendly. There's something cuddly about Darth Vader. I mean, I was him for like about 6 Halloweens in a row. and was, when I was just like really, really young, and just because he's the coolest one, man. What are you gonna do?
He's so cool, but I did show her like episode 4 thinking, this is great. And then within like 2 minutes, I'm like, oh, he just like choked that dude. And you hear his neck snap. I'm like,
awesome.
Right. And she didn't cry or flinch away, but I'm like, there's a core memory. Like core memory formed.
She'll do her thing. There's so many things I also want to talk about this series in High Republic because I'm jazzed about it. But I think why don't we call it an episode, man? This was super fun. We're gonna have to check up on Grant, see if he's in some Nihil prison somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know if he got caught. Yeah,
or
cornered by some nameless.
Or if there's a bunch of buzz droids descending on him in like no space right now. I'm sure he's fine. But we will catch up with him next week, and I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about next week. I have a feeling, Adam, that we're going to get some news probably tomorrow or the next day, and we're going to feel sheepish about not having it on this week's pod.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it.
Yeah, maybe we'll have like a free for all news discussion, catch up with Grant a little bit, and then we do have was it Glass Abyss? Is the name of it? The Mace
I haven't
Windu?
started reading that, but I can for next week. Yeah.
Well, maybe we give that. Maybe do that 2 weeks from today to give people time, because it just came out. I think this Tuesday. Yeah. So that's I don't know. I feel like we should give people like a couple.
I know,
weeks to
and
review.
that's seriously, like, we don't call releases news, but we should. I mean, that's a big deal. Before Adam and I were like, oh, this is kind of a slow week, but a novel came out about Mace Windu, for heaven's sake, for Force's sake. And it's got Qui-Gon Jinn in it, and it has some of the coolest cover art I've ever seen. It's like very unique, very stylized. He's like Mace Windu slashing his lightsaber, but like the glow off his lightsaber and the way that he's positioned looks like the Jedi Order symbol. And it looks dope. And
it looks great.
Just like A+ for the cover art on that.
Yeah, we gotta start building out more Mace Windu, because we know he's the Grand Master of Fallen Council. So we gotta start looking into that.
That's right. Check out last week.
Yeah, listen to last week's episode where he broke
the Fallen Council, just like pigpiling on Grant's idea that he was just gonna throw away.
I may have, on a date night with my wife, which we get so few and far between, spent a half
explaining
an hour
the Fallen
breaking
Council
apart. Yes, which she was like. She was like on board. She's like, she really liked the idea, but it was a very much, I now like flashback going, oh, I'm sorry, Carly, but she seemed to like not. We talked
about this idea, Carly, and it was so cool.
Yeah. But she was engaged. She was asking, she was trying to figure out who was around, and we're like looking at stuff, and I'm like, well, let me name 5 other Jedi you don't know about because you don't watch other stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's just
if I had to pick like the lowest hanging fruit right now, I would say it would be Luke Skywalker on like his adventures through space after Return of the Jedi, which could be one of the comics. Honestly, that would make it a great comic.
Yeah, it would be.
And B would be because it would be like the Vader Vision Quest that Vader went on that Charles Soule did, but it would be Luke's and in a very different direction. That's the comic, right? And then and the Path is learning more about the Path. And who was in it?
I would love that.
And how many Jedi are there? Thank you.
I guess to wrap it around the beginning, I feel like the announcement at Comic-Con has to be that we are the next main run comic is Star Wars. Like there's always been a Star Wars main run comic, and that's just going to be post the Battle of Jakku, and we'll tell some stories.
So they're just hustling through to Jakku.
It sounds. I mean, that's what this miniseries is.
Immediately in the aftermath, I guess it's just tedious and bureaucratic. Like the immediate aftermath of Return of the Jedi.
I mean, that's where we're at right now. So that's what the first miniseries is dealing with. They're still on Endor when the resurgence or whatever it's called starts this miniseries. So I'm wondering if these miniseries don't do a bit of time jumps. But I guess you're right. You could just do the Star Wars main run. But I feel like you're gonna get a main run where, similar to the main run that's always gone, is like sometimes you get stories that are Luke, Leia, and Han. Sometimes you get just Luke standalone stories. Sometimes you get Leia standalone stories. But I just tell those trio stories more of what's going on, because that is still not. Weirdly the moments right after, right? Because we know We get Luke and Han's honeymoon, right? We got that story told when they're on the Galactic Star Cruiser.
We needed that one. Honestly, it was a great story, but like
it was a fine book. I'm just laughing at how much in like 10 years from now people are gonna read this, be like not even realizing that is a promotional item. Like that is referring to something that existed for like 7 months.
It's almost cooler that it only existed for as long as it did.
Apparently, you could go down to the reactor core and see
where the game was?
Their names, where they carved their names in when they got married, so you could see the little carving that was in the thing.
We'll never know, buddy.
We'll never know.
It's closed by now, right? It's
been closed for a long time at this point. Again, the point is, 3 middle-aged to approaching middle-aged men
with big boy salaries,
with okay incomes. None of us went to go see that. And it went there. That's telling, right? That is a telling situation. Yeah. So anyway, who are like, we're your core audience, and the only person that seemed to have gone to those things are influencers who kept getting invited, to go try to proselytize, who are just not. Anyway, it's just a weird situation.
Yeah.
Also,
pandemic
didn't hurt. Didn't help. I mean,
right? It was just like opened like right after the pandy, and it's like, it sounds like a building with no windows. No thanks.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Too bad, man. I probably would have liked it. I have a feeling it would have been super corny, but I remember when we were at Batu together, the bartender had gone. Their server and started talking.
Right.
He was like, "Dude,
I forgot about that
much. If you go with a bunch of friends, it's only like $1,500.
Yeah, if you all sleep in together, if you don't mind, sleeping, butts to nuts, you're fine."
Right.
Sorry. Like I one of the things is like from people I've heard who were not influencers, they really speak about it like it was an amazing event. Like even for you and I who are like uncomfortable with the role playing aspect of it, like it seems like it kind of like wins you over to the point that you just kind of like let go and experience it. And there's so many things that were there that I didn't realize were there. Like there were outdoor areas and you can get like little things, and I don't know. It's just a weird situation. It's one of those things that like I don't regret not going because there's no way it could have gone and it just didn't work. But like
it was like close to $5,000 for 3 days.
Yeah,
it was astronomical.
I know. Yeah,
like it's you could spend a week like a king in Italy for $5,000.
So I know it's the truth. Like as someone who is fairly Disney pilled, like just saying like Disney park pilled, they are money grubbing whatever. I know we're trying to get out of here, but just like news from today because I can't.
We're talking about Star Wars.
For
That's
a second.
What we're here to do.
I mean, well, this is a little like Disney parks, but it relates to the Star Wars parks. Is now you can, and Ben can relate to this because we all went. Our 2 couples went to Disney for a couple days, and Carly and I kind of walked you guys through how everything works. And remember, like we did like sometimes it's worth just paying for the Genie Plus so you can skip a couple lines and paying for these like walk-on rides, which are great.
You were A+ like tour guides. We didn't wait in a line all like.
Right, and that cost us like $20 extra a day for the whatever, and then like $25 for a specific ride, like Rise of the Resistance. Let's just pay the $20 and just walk on. Fine. They have now added, and this just happened today, a tier where you can walk on to all rides in one park at least one time. Like you can go to every single ride, skip the line. It costs, depending on how busy the day is, between $300 and $700 per day. That is wild. Anyway, I don't want to like turn this into a Disney thing, but like it is just one of those things where it just shows that they're not really thinking about they know they can get that money. There are plenty of people that are going to pay that money, but they're not thinking about like it brings you back to that like the Star Wars hotel, which is a great idea, but what average person has $5,000 to spend on a room? Like it's
so
wild.
You just gave me an idea for a really fun episode. We have to find, and it's going to be fun too. And if our listeners, if any of you, our listeners, have been, we need to find someone who did this and bring them on the show, and we need to pepper them with questions.
Oh, yeah, that would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah, any of our listeners, if you've done this, you have an automatic yes to being on the show.
Oh, my God. Instantly.
Like, just say, well, instantly, we'll just ask you, like, I want to know your experiences and not, like, and honest, however you felt. Whether you felt it's amazing or rip off, whatever. I just want we would love to hear your thoughts. There's like a 3-hour video of a review that someone did that was making the rounds for a while that I kept meaning to watch.
It'd be more fun to just talk about to a real person.
I would love to be able to ask questions. Yeah,
and like really just sort of get the idea. So we have to find someone, and we have to talk to them on air about it. And that's as close as we'll get. But that's as much as I want. Really, just tell me the story.
Yeah. How do we start talking about this? I don't know.
We got there. Rad, man. This was super fun. We're going to always sit at a bar every week and talk about Star Wars. That's what we're about. It's my favorite thing. It's my favorite time of week. We really appreciate y'all listening to us. Next week, we're going to talk about Star Wars again. I guarantee it. And it'll be a blast. So thanks very much. We'll talk to you next week on
Cantina Chronicles.